X-Files for 4 episodes. Can you tell us some of your behind the scenes moments or filming moments that stick out?
Well, what's really interesting is that I was doing a series in Vancouver called The Commish. I don't know if you guys,
One of my favorite shows.
but Michael Chiklis as The Commish. And I played his partner, Sid Madison. And the Jim and Glenn were writers on The Commish the year that I joined. Well, they were there for the first year, and the year I joined was the second season. So the X-Files was starting either my second or third season, I can't remember, but the second or third season. But so they were there on the same lot. And then it was the third season of The Commish. Glenn and Jim went to work for Chris Carter. The pilot was bought. They went and joined the staff of the X-Files. So we had a great relationship and we were friends. And so we were on the same lot, and David Duchovny and Jillian, we kind of, said, hey, welcome to Vancouver. And, so there wasn't a lot going on back there then. It was the beginning of what we call Hollywood North. So when Jillian became pregnant, they had an idea, Glenn and Jim, and pitched it to Chris, that I would be a great replacement for her temporarily, to come on as a replacement FBI agent. So I had a meeting with Chris in Hollywood, and it went great. And we were going to do that. That was the plan. So it was a temporary thing. It was like 5 episodes while she had maternity. They decided, oh, sorry, that's me. They decided I looked too much like her, and it would be weird to have, another redhead, that I was more like her sister. So, and it gets interesting. They decided to get a man, and that developed into the character of Krychek, who ended up being my boyfriend. Nick Lee ended up getting the part, and we worked on the audition, because I knew he was on The Commish a little bit, but I had already talked to Chris, and I had already talked to Glenn and Jim, so I was like, had a little insight. So, and he got it. So it was really funny. So he got the part that originally I was going to get, and then they came to me and they said, we're going to bring on another character to play her sister, because we think here you are, and what kind of character do you want to play? And so this was the beginning. So this was before they knew it was going to be a phenomenon. So it was luck. So, and it is really who you know, right? But I was there. And so I had a drink with them, and I said, I want to play like the opposite of her. So why don't you make me more like him, like a psychic, or someone who at least believes everything, and who's completely open-minded and doesn't have any of her, who's like and I said, and then, am I the black sheep of the family, or is she the black sheep? But one of us is the rebel. Which one is it? But we have this tension. Wouldn't that be interesting? And so they were like, that's really interesting. So that's how the character came into being. And then, and it was great and fantastic, because at the time, there was nothing like that. I mean, Hill Street Blues this was, the early 90s. Hill Street Blues had changed narrative dramatic television, but nothing was shot like the X-Files. So John Bartlett, who had worked on The Commish and then went over and did the lighting designer, cinematographer. We were great friends as well. But with Chris Carter's vision and with his talent and his vision, they started shooting there up in Vancouver. Every episode was a movie. There was nothing like that on television at the time. Now, TV historians may call me out, but to my experience and my recollection, I can't think of anything like that. So we would go, those of us in more traditional narrative television, like The Commish, which is like A block, A story, B story, you knew what happened, the acts came, and then at the end, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da, like everything wrapped up. So there were these standalone episodes, and it was all traditional. We even shot on like 16 millimeter film. It wasn't even 32. And you knew what the shots were. But for me, it was great, because I was a theater actress and I needed to learn. I had barely done anything when I got that. So, but the X-Files, we would go on the set and we envied that. We were just like, oh my God, it's like a movie. We're so jealous. And look at what they were doing with lighting and with fog and with in the trees. And there was nothing like that on television. And they changed everything. So it was such an honor to be on it, even though it wasn't the phenomenon yet. Then, partly because of that experience on the X-Files, I asked to leave the commish. They were wonderful to me and I loved them, but I just felt like, just artistically, I wanted to do something more adventurous. And they graciously said, you can leave. And so I left, but I got another show down in LA, which was kind of a spinoff of Frasier. It was the same people. It wasn't the same characters, but it was a similar idea. And it was airing after Frasier. And Chris thought, well, this is going to be a huge hit. So they decided to write me out by killing me.
Jeez.
And what character killed me by shooting me in the head? What character?
Gotcha.
My still boyfriend at the time.
Um,
So Nick Lee killed me off the show. And I said to them, I was like, it's just a pilot. And sure enough, we did 13 episodes. I think they only aired 10 or something, and it didn't make it, which is why they brought me back as a ghost. But they would not have killed me off. It was because I had another show. So of course my hope was I was going to get more, but by that was maybe the second year, the show was a phenomenon. So every Friday night, everything stopped. This was before Must See TV. This was before Friends and NBC. That was a couple of years later. That was like, in fact, that show, which was on NBC, was the same year Friends was made. So that was just the beginning. So the appointment television thing, that is the thing that is really the standout thing. And I've been in a lot of things that were kind of cultural things like The Dark Knight and Mad Men. The X-Files is the only one I've been chased down the street because the fans are so devoted and so passionate. And it was in Vancouver, actually. So I do think the people of Canada have a real possessive, beautiful devotion to the show because that crew was incredible. And there is, I think there's a awareness of the show when it was shot there and then the change. And it was difficult. It was painful when they left because there were so many people had been on the show from the beginning, from all the way through, from the pilot all the way through. And that was a very big change. So anyway, so I knew all about, all of those ins and outs of the crew. And it's a small town and I lived there. So there was palace intrigue in that after I had left the show, particularly about it leaving and how painful that was. I think that was a very painful decision, I think, for everyone.
So you had mentioned, you sort of touched upon this in your answer, but you had said that the X-Files became a phenomenon. What was it like being part of that?
Well, one of the interesting things about, and now so much stuff shoots out of town, but not then. And to shoot out of town, like in New York or something, that was very expensive or considered very expensive and very different. Now, of course, I think with the SVU and everything in New Jersey, and everything, I hardly ever shoot anything in Los Angeles unless it's comedy. So many things. North Carolina, Albuquerque, Vancouver. I just got back from Vancouver, and which I love Vancouver with a passion. Chicago, so you're away. You're kind of away, and then the offices are in Hollywood. So Chris wasn't there a lot. Like he would fly up occasionally, or whoever script it was would fly up, but there was always the kind of a separation. So I think the focus was always just doing, you knew it was exciting and that it was at the cutting edge of like a new kind of thing. I also think it's really interesting with everything that's going on now with conspiracy theories becoming such a big, more mainstreamed, and because of the internet and everything. It was the beginning of the internet, but it wasn't like everyone had a computer. I mean, I didn't have a computer till I was, till maybe 95. So I think that the whole idea, that's to me, was already compelling at the time, that we all have kind of have this feeling they didn't tell us. And now it's all coming out that these Navy people are starting to say, yes, that, there's UFOs. Like we all kind of were like, of course there are, so I think it would kind of confirm this thing that it was mystery and it was conspiracy, and it was cover up, and it was these people operating in the dark, trying to get to the truth. His willingness to believe everything, her willingness to believe nothing, and then the romantic tension. So I think the kind of archetype of the show was you knew was super compelling, but it's just the craftsman, the writing, the dialogue, the craftsmanship of and then even the theme music. You were aware that it was really top of its game. So I think my perspective of it is just everyone just worked really, really hard. And so it's not that we didn't fool around or we didn't laugh, but there wasn't wasted time. It was serious. You came prepared. It wasn't like no one was bored. No one was phoning it in. Just, you know what I mean? So in that sense, it was really exciting. There was this energy. You knew you were lucky if you were doing it. It was one of those things.
What was it like when you heard about or when you read the script about Melissa Scully's death, and how was it actually filming it?
Well, I was terribly sad. I mean, I understood. They really, it was one of those, it was a very different time, it's almost 30 years ago. It's blowing my mind. But I mean, television back then, when there was a series, the goal was 24 to 26 episodes or whatever. And you wanted to go at least 7 years so you could get syndication. That was like the idea. So at least that's what the studios wanted, networks wanted. The idea for me of being on anything for 7 years was terrifying, but that was the model, the European model. And when I was training and then I stayed in England, the beginning of my career, series there were maybe 6 episodes. And then you'd say, oh, we're doing another series of that, right? Not another season. You didn't work a whole year on a show. You worked a few months, and then you went and did theater and whatever, which is more like it is now. So now you can have a series, you do 10 episodes. Almost every series I do, it's 10, or I do half of them, or, then it was like, there was the shows there were, and there was Fox, which was the exciting new network, but there wasn't all of these little things going on. So it was just a very, very different time. So when this show that the Frasier people were doing, and Frasier had won all of these Emmys, and it was like top of its game, and you're not talking about a category when you can have 10 best comedy. You're talking about Frasier winning year after year after year after year after year. So when they decide to create a new show for the first time, everyone's assuming it's going to be a massive hit. So when I got that show, they were like, well, she's gone. So I understood, but it still was terrible. But that they brought me back. They brought me back as a ghost. Actually, I was in 5 episodes because one, I was just on the phone, but I didn't care. I just wanted to be alive in the world, but that's what's so great about them. It wasn't, I didn't take it personally. I knew, but it was heartbreaking. It was terrible that Nick had to do it, and he didn't want to do it. And so that was a drag.
It was a drag. Actually get a kick out of it that he had to do it. I would almost lie.
No.
It was emotional.
Not later. I think later. I mean, it's a great story, right? We can laugh about it. And when we started to, be mad at each other for whatever reason, but no, I mean, it was a drag. And the other thing is I was just incredibly close to the crew. So many of them were my friends from the commish. And then the ones that weren't, I became friends with, and you just become, you know what it's like. You just become such good friends, and you don't want to not be part of it. That project, it's love, it's love you love. And I love the character, and I wanted to find out more about Melissa. I really did. I think there was a lot more stories, and I wanted to know what her story is, because I think there's some painful stuff going on there that pushed her in that direction. And maybe some mystical experiences or other things that I thought would be really fun too. But then Sheila Larkin too played my mom. Like, I loved her so much, and just everybody. It was just a great experience. There's no negative experience around that, none. And I think it shows in the work. If you trust each other and you want to be good, not just for yourself, but for everyone, because everyone is working hard. So you're there to make everyone better around you. That's what you try to do, right? Any professional does that, but I think when you have an emotional stake, and I also think that it says a lot about the project that it attracts those kind of people, and the casting people that, but no, nobody, there's no time for nonsense on a show that complicated anyway,
No kidding.
the characters are so complicated. That's what I think was so interesting, is that the characters were flawed heroes, really flawed. And you want them to get together, but then you can see they're flawed. And so they're working through their stuff. And I love that Melissa got to call him out on his bullshit. And, what are you doing? That's boring. Get over it. That's great, and any character that's a little damaged is always more compelling to not just play, but to watch, I think.
Well, one more question for you. And we have asked this to everyone that we've had the opportunity to interview. What is your message for the X-Files fans?
Well, my first message is thank you for getting it, I guess, for letting yourself go so deeply into it and loving something so unabashedly with passion. I mean, that's what artists are wanting to do, is create worlds and help create the vision of the creators of that world to live on. I mean, it's incredible I just did my first X-Files retrospective fan event in 2019.
X-Fest?
Yeah, the X-Fest. And it was amazing. I met so many wonderful people. I mean, I get emotional just thinking about these people who Dana Scully inspired to go into medicine, these young women. I mean, I'm so proud of them. I'm so, excited for them. And I would just say, that I have nothing but respect for people who are willing to dive into a world and understand it, and the fan fiction and the fan art, and create things out of it that are beyond what we had the time and scope and they had the time and scope to create. I think that what is more amazing than having a piece of art that spawns more? I think it's great. And I just can't believe how much love I felt. I didn't realize until I went in person. I don't think you realize, the devotion it's not just an idea or an imaginary, it's not just an ideal, but there's an emotional devotion. And that is something, when you're an actor, that's not what you're trying to do. It's not like, oh, I want to be in something that makes, but when it happens, it's like, this is really special, that there's something in the archetype of this, there's something in this world that has resonated with so many people that they then meet up and have their own community. And that, especially now, being able to have each other and lean on each other. And I met people there, like you guys have, reconnected. I met all these people who connected because of the X-Files, who now go to every convention together, and they've met each other's families, and they've been to each other's weddings, and they know each other's kids. And it is a real thing. It's a beautiful, deep thing that I respect, and I think is deeply respected by those of us who are involved in the X-Files. And that's why, Frank and people to take you seriously. This is not a fan group that's just in the wind, without us understanding and acknowledging that it's meaningful in a real way, and that the connection you guys are feeling, and that by keeping it alive, you're actually giving, not just to each other, but it goes out into your lives. That kind of passion is life-giving. I really believe in passion. You can tell I'm a very out front person. Any passion that makes you extends your health, extends your life, and it helps your relationships. And it's an incredible thing to just be a little tiny part of it and stand there and look at this thing. And Frank was saying, there's no fans like this. There's nothing like this. It's extraordinary. So you kind of go into a world, and then you start to understand, the archetypes of it, because all stories have the hero's journey, right? These reluctant heroes, because that's what we all are. Nobody wants to have a bunch of crises in their lives that they have to step up. But we all I'd be great if someone would take care of everything.
Oh yeah.
So what we find, and we found it this year, and we find it in politics, and we find it in our relation, is that we're the ones we've been waiting for. And that's, so every story that can, really touch people and say, Now that's a huge here's this thing, and they're determined to figure out the truth is out there. What is it? What is it? And you know, to realize that the answers are within and the truth is out there. It's just, I mean, it sounds silly, but it's such a deep thing, and it's a transformative thing. And I think that's why a lot of artists become artists. They may not, you know, I'm old now, so I can start to understand and articulate for myself, what's the project? What am I doing besides it being fun? And it's like, oh, I want to be a part of, you know, understanding and interpreting and putting in words and putting in behavior for people to see, what is this human project? What are we doing here together and alone and all these things? And so when there's some narrative and then characters that are reflecting something new, a glimpse into personal growth, into relationship with, you know, the government, whatever it is, it's a big deal. And you just can't dismiss it. But I think, to me, the most amazing thing is seeing these relationships of trust and healing that I see among these people. It's super cool. Have you guys seen Nomadland yet?
No.
Not yet. I want to.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it yet.
It's really interesting. I think a lot of people in it aren't actors, but the reason I bring it up is because it's a little bit like Grapes of Wrath. Like, it's this group of people who are nomadic, they're itinerant workers, but a lot of them have chosen it. But it also makes you realize when you watch it, we don't see older women in film or television. We don't see them anywhere. We're just middle, and like most of the things I play, you guys, I just want to tell you, I'm putting together a reel called Kiss of Death, where I'm either in a romantic situation or being killed. Because since I turned, well, that was the first time I was killed on the X-Files. Almost everything I get hired for, I end up getting killed. It's like they don't know what to do with middle-aged ladies. And it's fascinating, but you watch that and you're just like, most of the characters are older women, and you're just like, where are they hiding us? It's very interesting, but I see like a weird corollary for some reason with the X-Files, and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what it is, but I feel like there's this world of people that was represented in that, and at the X-Files that hadn't been represented before. I think that's why. But Jillian and I met again playing best friends in a show.
Really?
And where I was playing the first lady and she was playing a senator?
That would have been amazing.
Yeah, and that was really, really, it's the first time we had seen each other. And that
That's so cool.
was amazing. We got to sit there and cry together, and it was really fun.
Aw.
But she is so great, and you know, I'm so happy for her.
She's done well.
She deserves all of that. I mean, have you guys seen her in The Crown?
I haven't watched The Crown yet. My mother keeps telling me
She
to
was
watch
phenomenal.
it.
It
I've
was
heard
great.
it's amazing.
You know, you can just skip to this season. It's kind of one of those shows with like each episode is kind of standalone in a way. I mean, it's great to watch the whole thing, but you could just start with the season where Princess Diana comes in and where Jillian comes in as Margaret
I
Thatcher.
only watched Jillian's season. That's
It's
exactly what I
probably
did.
one better off anyway.
Yeah,
It's-
that's great. How was it like working with her?
And you know, most of my scenes were with her or David or them together. So no, it was fantastic. I mean, you know, we both, by the time we re-met, it had been like 20 years. So we both had families. She had even a second family. She, you know, but I knew Piper, her baby, from the beginning when she was pregnant, from when she was little. And then, so to reconnect with her having two new little ones and living in England was amazing. I mean, it's just very, very sweet. It's very sweet. And that's a great thing about this business, you know, that you get to come back around to people that you've known for so long. And it's, you know, because you fall in love with a group of people, then you leave and you don't know when you're going to see each other again. And to be able to like circle back is just, it's amazing. It's like, you feel like you like are coming back to your hometown or something. So